Another update on the two-valve superbike project. It's been a bit of a delay. I've kind of learned over the years that you can, how does the saying go? You can get something fast, you can get something cheap, or you can get something well done, but you can't get all three. And so in the spirit of getting something relatively cheap and well done, there is still no superbike frame in my garage with the rear swing arm linkage completed. It's still at the welding shop. I'll maybe stop by this week and nose around and try to guilt him into getting it done sooner, but it's been over a month since I've dropped it off. I'm glad for the guy who's doing it. If his shop is busy, that means you know, he's getting paid to do what he's very good at doing, and it's a place like that that you know, runs the local economy, and he is excellent at his work. So I'm glad to see it, but I'd also like to get my frame back. Anyway, what's eventually showed up from the Czech Republic of all places is my Moto 4's rear seat fairing. So I think I've already showed you the front fairing I'm going to use. So the rear fairing here, I've realized that if all possible, I want to use the stock rear seat and the stock subframe. So it's a race fairing, but it does have the actual OEM seat. And I said, you know, I want something better than a thin piece of foam. Well, this isn't much more than a thin piece of foam, but it's an actual seat itself and not something that you stick to a plastic or fiberglass pan. So I had to make some modifications to the subframe itself because my plan was, and I did some measuring and figuring, and I'm going to be mounting the battery underneath the seat. I swear, my neighbor mows his lawn every 2 days. I may be obsessed with motorcycles. This guy is obsessed with yard care. The amount of money he sinks into his yard in seed and fertilizer. Should get a motorcycle. Might be cheaper. Anyway, I'm going to take the fairing off and show you what I've done for the battery mount so far. Oops. The nice thing about this, and like, why did I go all the way to the Czech Republic to get these fairings? What I've found with this company is that their prices in euro are better than, or still cheaper than US prices, certainly from Airtech. Airtech ships UPS only, and UPS are a bunch of criminals running around in brown trucks charging you brokerage fees to cross the border. COVID notwithstanding, their brokerage fees are ridiculous, plus the cost to ship. And even though fairings don't weigh very much, they're big volume wise, so they're expensive to ship. So believe it or not, getting this from the Czech Republic shipped to me to Canada is actually cheaper in the long run. And you notice too that the quality is pretty excellent of this. Yeah, the gel coat's thin in a few spots. You're going to paint it anyway, but it's reinforced in all the important spots with Kevlar, and the holes line up. One hole drilled, not 5 or 6 trying to get close to where the actual mount is on the subframe. So you center it right in the depression that they've made there, and the bloody thing fits the first time, which is lovely. They've also included this piece here, which helps support it if you're, again, running sort of a race style setup. You need some extra support, or else the tail flaps and bounces all over the place. So lining that up took a bit of measuring, but again, it mounts nice and solid. Put some rubber bushings underneath there to give it a bit of flex. And so we're left with subframe. You can see I've modified it quite a bit. So this is a round tube that goes all the way here. So I cut it halfway here, halfway there, and then cut the rounded section out and welded in a flat piece. And then 2 more pieces here, and then a piece right there. So the idea is that will butt itself up against the edge of the battery. So, one moment. So this is a lithium-ion battery that I got from a Ducati shop out of the States. Desmo Times was the recommended size. Weighs nothing, like maybe 1.5 pounds. But I've used this when I had the engine running before, and it turns over the 900 SS engine no problem. And the great thing about lithium-ion batteries is that because they're dry cell, they can be stored in any orientation. So this tucks itself right in between these 2 frame rails. I'll trim those back a bit anyway. And then slides in right like so. So it's just the platform there right now for support. So I've made and cut out, as soon as I get my hands on or access to a brake and a shear, I'll be cutting this here and here, bending these tabs up. The battery will be saddled right in there as well, and then a strap will go on each side. So that'll keep it from sliding back and forth here. And then a strap will go around, keeping it from going back and forth like this. I do have to watch though. This here is the positive terminal, and then so the wires to the battery will be coming like this. I'll have to make sure that none of them are going to touch. Like they ground out on this piece here, we're going to have some trouble. So I might have to, trim this back here somewhat just to give a bit of extra insurance that through vibration or whatever, some red high tension or high voltage wires to the battery don't accidentally touch a steel bracket there. That would lead to some problems. So this does fit up underneath the tail, no problem. However, let's take this out. This slides through these 2 brackets just perfectly. So I'll trim them back a bit just so it's not scratching. When you turn the subframe over, the battery does sit below this, obviously. So what I'm going to do is once I get the battery mounted with the aluminum bracket, I'm going to scuff this up a bit and then just fiberglass in a little box here to keep this totally sealed off and covered, because the battery does sit just above the rear wheel when it's mounted on the bike, and of course you want to keep that area pretty clean. So it's not going to be easy to do, unfortunately. I'd like to go from the inside out, but I'll have to put the battery in place and then cover it with packing tape. Actually works really well as a non-stick surface, and then build up the fiberglass over that. Hopefully not have it weigh a ton, but it's just to give that extra clearance rather than leave it open and exposed to the elements there. And depending on what I eventually do with this thing, as usual, I'm waffling back and forth between street bike, track bike. The frame does have a title, etc., etc. I'll have to mount either the license plate and and some brake lights and turn signals right around this area. But on top of that, depending on the direction I take with the exhaust, somewhere around here and maybe taking off on this bracket here will be mounts for the muffler or mufflers, depending on what kind of system I go with. Anyway, that's the update for now. Hopefully in a couple weeks time I'll be able to start back on the main frame once it's been finished. That's it for now.